Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat.
Today, we're talking about how to stay focused when you're doing a ketogenic lifestyle. We had a question.
Yeah, we had a very interesting question actually from Mandel Harvey. What causes withdrawal and what symptoms to expect? Before you jump in, like what I would like to start the conversation with is that main problem is that sugar is not a food. Sugar, like we all often say, that sugar is a substance, and you get addicted to that substance. When you stop, like when you embark on your keto lifestyle and you stick to your 20 grams of carbs or less, there's a good chance you're going to experiment some withdrawal symptoms like out of that.
Of course. Right? Okay, so there's like the physical, right? Because my brain is looking for that dopamine reaction that it's going to have, so that pleasure feeling when I eat sugar. But the other thing is that there's an endorphin. So basically, there's a lot of feel-good hormones that get released when I eat sugar. Scientists have already shown that the part of your brain that reacts to sugar is the same part of your brain that reacts to hard drugs. So if I know that, then yes, of course, there's going to be some withdrawal symptoms. Here's the positive, though. I learned, not in time to save myself, but I did learn that you can actually have less symptoms. It doesn't mean there can be zero, but you can have less symptoms if you increase the amount of salt that you're taking. Now, part of the reason we have withdrawal symptoms, because when you take sugar out of your life, sugar holds water. So not only am I losing that reaction mentally, but I'm also losing water, and so dehydration coming in. But on top of that, I'm also losing minerals. So now when I start losing different minerals, I'm going to be in a hormone imbalance. I'm going to be in all kinds of imbalances. And of course, that makes me feel like really bad, which D talks about here in his withdrawal, like the symptoms that you have of withdrawal. What I want to point out, though, is that if I add salt, at the minimum, I take away that loss of all those minerals. You're still not having the sugar, but you're not having all those minerals going out in your urine. And so it minimizes those withdrawal symptoms. Now, on a
but for people like that are wondering, like until like since the video started, the withdrawal symptoms that we're talking about is the keto flu, the infamous keto flu, right? Like everybody's referring to that like it's the most horrible thing that can happen to you, and it's enough to kick you out of the journey you just embarked on. But it's not the case. Like honestly, it lasts a couple days for the people that went, like cut the sugar like from day one, like you did. I think you had a couple like
3 days,
three rough days. We joked like about that in the past. Like for me, I went progressively, and it wasn't physically rough, but like you seem to be saying that I was like a little bit how would I say?
It was emotionally rough.
Emotionally rough. I was a bit more grumpy. That was I was looking for. But like yeah, so withdrawal symptoms, keto flu, like they're the same.
I noticed that when it comes to a lot of health things, we put these cute words on things that are actually happening, right? Withdrawal symptoms got translated to keto flu.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a flu. You haven't caught a bug or a virus. It's actually your body reacting to the fact that yesterday we ate 300 grams of carbohydrates, and today we barely got 20. Eventually, my body's going to react to that. You know, the other funny little word that we love to throw around is cravings rather than addiction, right? It's an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Because guess what? When that alcoholic is craving alcohol, nobody's using the cute little, oh, you're having cravings? No.
Yeah.
We're looking at him like he's a drunk, and not, right? We're not being nice about that. So we need to be a bit more realistic with ourselves, because it's an addiction that we all, I mean, it's amazing that this whole world is walking around addicted to this substance, and nobody's talking, well, hardly anybody's talking about it. We're trying to change that, guys. You know, share this video. We need to be talking about this.
It's funny because I have no later than last week a colleague of me that asked me, I think he wants to embark on the keto journey, and he asked me, say, oh Pat, like does it hurt? Like his question was really like, does it hurt getting into keto? But I think he was referring to the keto flu, and like, and he was a little bit scared of like what would happen to him. But like yeah, if you do all the right things and you really cut your grams of carb to 20 from day one, what I didn't do, but like it's probably better if you do it like that and add some salt.
If you add the salt, apparently it's not as
but
bad.
but what okay, but yeah, what were your symptoms? What were your symptoms?
I had a headache that was sincere, and it was a headache that lasted about a day and a half. First of all, you know, in my youth, I had migraines that lasted days. This wasn't new. So I've had headaches like that before. But when I was comparing it to what my hip was feeling, I was willing to live the headache and try to get through the headache to get to the other side of what I was being told was going to be better health for my hip. So, you're in my mind, I was trading, well, I didn't know how many days at that point, but I was trading I thought it was going to be a headache that would last a few hours. It ended up lasting a day and a half. But I thought I was trading that for being able to walk up and down the stairs. I wanted to be able to walk up and down the stairs. Like, you don't understand what it is to be 43, I think I was at the time, and not be able to walk up, like you're talking like great grandmother scenario that I'm living at 43. I was willing to go through the headache. What other symptoms did I have? I was hungry even though I ate. And I couldn't seem to satiate my hunger for some reason. That was a thing. That's when I learned about adding more fat. I just cut the carbs, right? So I learned about adding a bit more fat.
I remember you didn't add fat.
I didn't add any extra fat to my day. I didn't really realize that was the thing. I just had learned.
In that scenario, you were like low fat.
I was low fat, low carb. Yeah.
So you were lacking energy.
So I was starving even though I was eating. What else did I have?
You need to realize that you cut out a substance, so you might be a little bit more like on edge, I guess would be.
Well, I'd have to ask you that question because I don't remember. Was I on edge that weekend? I know we saw each other, but I don't know if I was on edge that weekend.
I don't think so.
I probably was just sleeping because whenever I get a headache, I sleep. So I probably spent the whole day sleeping, and like you probably just didn't see me much. That's what I do when I get a headache because I don't like taking medication. So, which probably you tried to give me some medication, I probably got.
Maybe.
That might have made me mad, but but yeah. So I don't remember any other symptoms. I'm trying to think, did I have any other symptoms?
But what was there to expect, like from what we read, like so far?
Oh, you can get all the symptoms of a withdrawal, right? So you could get chills. You can get like you can be grumpy and in a bad mood. You can be like basically when any withdrawal potentially has the same possibilities. The good thing about keto is that it lasts 3 days. I actually feel like the fact that when the headache hit me, I went to sleep and I just spent like a good portion of that time sleeping. The good news there was that I was also not eating, which just pushed me into ketosis faster, right? Because I don't even think I ate supper that day, if I remember correctly. My head was not in a good place. But that probably just, I know this now looking back, it probably pushed me into ketosis even faster so that I didn't eat. I'm trying to think. Like, I know that you didn't have many symptoms except for the grumpiness, but
but for me, I went like I didn't maybe I didn't trust myself to be able to do it from day one like you did. So for me, it was more like a progressive carb elimination from my diet. So I took out everything that was like sweet, desserty. I was like I had a sweet tooth. I still have, so I need to be careful, but I had a sweet tooth. So dessert were the first things to go away. After pasta, rice, I finished with the bread. The whole process took, I think, about a month. So, but even towards the end, I was eating like the lowest carb bread that I could find, and it was like not that bad. I think one slice was like 10 gram or something like that. But I was buying it, and it was in fridge, and like ended up spoiling. So I didn't even had the pull toward that bread that often. I'd rather like the morning eat eggs, like because at that time I was probably still doing 3 meals a day, but like I was like going towards the eggs for the breakfast and meat and veggies. If you like doing it progressively is another option that I think is going to be probably less hard on your body, but you need to have a clear plan, I think, like to get to that, because you still have carbs in your system, but you're probably going to go from 300, like you said, to 200 to 100 to 50, and then eventually to your 20.
Actually, I think the funny thing is how long you stayed around 100 before. Like, I feel like you could have been faster to keto, but like again, there's that psychological thing of like still wanting to eat these things, because like that's the part I find hard for a lot of people. when you still have that few little things that you can eat that's still giving you the hit, and then like making that decision that I'm actually taking them out. But again, I feel like I had such a motivation, right? Like couldn't walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
So it's different when you have a huge motivation versus when you're doing it. Well, you're doing it because you see your spouse doing it, right? But like it's not the same thing when you have like something that's really you're scared for. I was scared. Like I was scared. Actually scared.
But honestly, I did it for sure. I didn't do all the research you did. Like you started as like it works. It doesn't look that bad, so I followed you. But I got scared too. Like to be honest, like at the beginning, my blood pressure went to a point where I really like if I don't do something, like I need to go get some medication for that. And seeing at the time all the articles about this medication, like they made a link with cancer, they made a link with the other problems. I was like, that like this seems to be the worst kind of medication to take. For sure, like my blood pressure with that lifestyle went lower. Still a little bit like on the edge of being too high, but like so that's why I want to keep like pushing in the coming weeks.
Although luckily your blood pressure is still in a good place. So that's the interesting thing too, right? Like when you do low carb, you still can be like pretty okay. So like your blood pressure has maintained and you still like getting good numbers whenever we check.
Yeah.
But it's still good. I think I agree with you. Like getting back to eating like really well is great. But like I'm just pointing out to people that so this is the other thing that I think happens sometimes is that people will do a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, and then if they're not going to continue on their healthy ketogenic lifestyle, they'll go back to eating normally. And like I'm very, very happy that you didn't do that. Like you went from eating a ketogenic lifestyle to eating low carb, which at least it kind of keeps you in this position where you needed to be ready to like be back full in and say, okay, like I'm really doing that again. And this goes back to the other thing that I often talk about, which is like when you come to something mostly for weight loss, your motivation to stay with it is not the same as when you came to it because you were, in my case, really afraid like I wouldn't be able to walk or whatever. Like, I mean, yes, it did give you the benefit of the good blood pressure, but I don't know that we actually thought that was what was going to happen when you started. I think you started because you saw me doing it and it was like, I was actually losing weight and it was one of your goals. But I feel like now you're going back to it because you did have, like, you see the benefit of the health parts. So I feel like your motivation has switched a little bit in terms of like why you're doing it the second time. Yeah. Right. So, and I feel like this is something that happens to a lot of people.
But to be honest, also being on a low carb, it can work if you have like a clear idea of what you can eat and what like your carbs are coming from. Problem is that you still like getting, even if you do like my estimates are around maybe 50 to 70 grams of carbs per day coming from whole foods. Like that's a thing. I don't allow cookies, or still don't allow dessert and stuff. So mostly, but like, I say that, but like the little bite of ice cream that like sometimes you see me take, and so that's the problem with low carb, is that like
the door's open.
The door is open, and the door is still there, and they're even more sneaky because it's just this, it's just that, and you still like, I think, feeding your addiction in some way. That's what's pushing me to go back to tracking and to weighing and.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think the thing that I was just pointing out is that I'm proud of you that you at least didn't go back to like full on eating standard American diet, which a lot of people do. It's so sad to me when I watch some people in the videos and they're like, they're confessing that they're back to normal diet. And it's like, so I feel like at least being aware of, if for some reason you have to be struggling right now to keep on your good ketogenic lifestyle, going to low carb is still better than going back to standard Canadian diet, standard American diet. Right? Because, at least you're keeping yourself at a better place. And then you can always come back to keto, though still yo-yo dieting. I'm not suggesting that you do this on purpose. What I'm saying is that if for some reason you're not able to do it, although I think you can, but I feel like the way that you did it, if you're going to do something, it was the better way to do it. That's what I'm trying to say. But you know what? I think like, having support, because the truth is, when I was doing keto before you were ever doing anything, you did support me in what I was doing, even though you didn't understand at the time. And so you didn't like tempt me with meals that you knew I loved. You just cooked things that were I was able to eat. And vice versa, is that when we eat together, even though you're eating a higher carb count than me, it's like I really never had anything to say about what you were eating anyway. But the flip side of the coin is that when I was cooking at home, if I was making things, I always made sure that I had things that you were going to be able to eat. I feel like if we support each other, the good thing about supporting your spouse is that then it's their decision, right? Because I'm super happy to hear that you're planning to go back to tracking, but it had nothing to do with me. That was your decision. And I think what people don't understand, and I didn't understand this at the beginning either, because honestly, I was all over my family trying to push them to do keto. But then you start to realize that if they want it, they're going to go get it. And the same way that, like, as much as I wanted you to be doing it, like when you were ready to go back to doing it, you're going to go back to doing it. And now you're telling me that you are. So yay.
Yeah. Because then we had like a comment about that also with another of our viewer trying to convince their family, and they're like there was no response at all on that front. But like you can do it at like they have to come up with it.
Actually, I just made a video recently about like why I talk about keto and the family members that I'm worried about, and I'll link that up.
Very good video.
Yeah, but I think that it's so important for us to really just focus on health. So going back to the question.
Okay, so Mendel like brought a couple interesting question about addiction that you covered in the past video. So like we invite Mendel to go watch the 2 parts video about like the physical and psychological part of addiction. Suggested ways to keep focus. How do we keep focus on your keto with all the symptoms that might arise? How did you do it? But you had a pretty good like end goal that was your hip.
When people decide to eat better, a lot of the time it's about weight. And the problem that I see with that is that what happens when you reach your goal weight? All of a sudden your motivation to eat this way, whatever this way happens to be, is gone. And so one of the things that I try to help people to think about is that if my goal for eating this way is bigger than just weight, then chances are, even when I reach my goal weight, I'm going to keep doing it. Now we see this. We see how people, for example, vegans, who their goal is the planet, in the face of not feeling well, will keep eating that way because their goal is bigger than them and they're willing to sacrifice themselves. I'm not suggesting this is right. I'm just saying we see it, right? That I've talked to vegans who are not healthy, who are in poor shape, and they're still convinced that this is better for the planet. Okay, I'm not saying you have to be that extreme, but what happens if I make a goal that's actually towards my benefit and maybe the benefit of the world too, sure. If I'm in better health, so if my goal is my health, doesn't my family benefit? If I'm in better health, doesn't my work benefit? So all the people that I help at work, they benefit. If I'm in better health, aren't I in a position in my better health, if I'm going to advocate for the planet, to advocate for the planet? The truth is that if I make my goal better health is something that you work on every single day, because better health is something that you have to work on every single day. You know, those people that suggest to you to eat carbs and then you can go work out to get rid of it, the truth is that you can't work out away a poison that you ate. You just can't. However, though, I do agree with the part where go work out. Why? Because if I know that if I want to stay strong, that every day working out is what's going to help me to stay strong, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to work out. And I'm going to do it when? All the time. Why? Because I want to stay strong. Like this idea that it's something that I do and will always do towards me having this thing that I want, because if I don't do it, the thing goes away. Right? The same way that if I stop going to work, the boss stops paying me. Well, if I stop eating properly, my body stops getting the benefit of me eating properly. So if I want to feel good.
You just said one word that actually like got me an idea. Like the whys, your whys. Like you often talk about your whys. Like your whys have to be clear. Write them down. Like have it like visually somewhere. Like I think it's a good way to keep your focus on what you want to attain. So write your goals, keep them in sight, so they're there and you know what you're doing that for. Question I have is, and probably the question behind this thing that Mendel asked, a craving. What do you do with a craving? Well, I think you covered it in the last two videos, but like shortly, like if you have a craving, you have a family. For example, I buy the cookies for my kids. Of course, you're gonna have cravings, especially at the beginning. What do you do with cravings?
Okay, so like I was always that person who bought stuff for my daughter, and in my brain would label it my daughter's, and then therefore Violet doesn't touch it. 99% of the time she would play the game and she would never offer me any. If she offers it to me, then it becomes for me too, and then I'm in trouble, right? And she knew the game. She played the game. So I would buy her stuff. And a lot of times she was even nice enough to choose the kind of things that she knows I don't particularly like. I have a nice kid. So this, what I'm saying right now, is probably not going to work for most people because you weren't playing that game to begin with. I've been doing this since I had her because I know if I bring too much junk in the house, right, I would eat it before her. My daughter is that girl that can eat one cookie out of a package and be like, I'm okay. And like the package is going to sit there for weeks, right? So I had to play that game. What I would really suggest for everybody else on the planet who's not going to be able to just buy the stuff and say it doesn't belong to me, what I would do is, and this is what I suggest to all the people I talk to who want to start a ketogenic lifestyle, your family loves you. That's reality. They want you around. So for 1 month, there's no junk in the house. Yeah. We're talking about 1 month. Why 1 month? It's probably going to take you about 4 weeks to get through that cravings part. That physical, I need it. If it's not there, you're not going to, most people are not going to get up out of their house and go to the store to buy a chocolate bar, right? Most people, even me in my craziness, I never did that. So if you plan it properly and let your family understand, if you guys want junk food, eat it outside the house, right? Your husband can do that for you. If your kids are old enough, they can do that for you. And if your kids are too young to do that for you, you control their food anyway. So for 1 month, they don't eat junk.
Or buy it's the junk not a big you don't deal. Like.
or buy junk that you don't like. Although I have to say, when you're craving stuff, you end up eating whatever is there.
But you know, like for me, it's funny because it happened like last week. I was buying oatmeal, like the big oatmeal cookies for one of my son, but like actually the last couple weeks, like he ate it kind of like less and less and less, and they started bugging me, and I was like, okay, like I'm not buying them anymore. But again, like the granola bars that are besides, or the little fruit, little
squishies,
squishies, yeah, they don't like call me at all. Even though I know they're sweet, like I couldn't care less about those. In a book that I've read, like in the past too, you need to be able to learn how to say no to yourself. Like if you have a craving, and like this image, like from that book, was so simple. And it can work sometimes. Like it's hard sometimes, but like it did for me in the past. Just say no, thank you, no, thank you to yourself. Like you just like you have to accept the craving. It's there. Don't try to push it away. Like just try to find why you have that craving. What's happening? Are you bored? Why you want to eat something? Like did you have a fight with your spouse? Like you talk about that often too. So just try to find the source of the craving and acknowledge it, accept it, but you just say no, thank you. And go for a walk. Get out of the kitchen.
I think the important piece you said there is, why am I having the craving? A lot of the times we don't let ourselves realize that I want this because, and there's something else happening there that's actually pushing this behavior. The other thing I want to say is that when you're looking at the food, because the truth is, okay, we can take all the junk out of the house, but there might still be rice or other things. Now the question is, okay, when I'm cooking for my family, how much do I actually need to cater to what they want versus how much should I be putting what's healthy for all of us on the table? My point is this. A lot of the times we make plates where it's excessively high in carbohydrate. It's not because we are eating like rice, for example, that you need a mountain of rice. So even at that, like I could still cook foods that even for them that are healthier and like, so good vegetables, and just make less of the stuff that's not great. Is it going to stop me from craving it when everyone else is having a little bit of rice and I'm not having any? No, it's not going to stop me from craving it. What's really going to stop me from craving it is really answering the question of, is that food helping me be healthy? Is that food helping me attain my goals? And I think when we allow ourselves to really ask that question, we get a different answer as to whether or not we want to eat that thing, right? There's all of a sudden, it's like, well, no, I don't want to eat that thing. Like, what do we do with the cravings? Address them.
Mm.
You have to look right at your craving and say, why is this happening? What is it that's causing me to want this right now? Of all the things I could be wanting, why a cookie? Or why rice even? It might be rice. That's the other thing that's so weird. We think we're only going to crave the fun stuff. We crave it all.
Interesting idea that Mandel brings a little bit further in his comment. So it's the behavior of eating bad food is ingrained even when physical cravings leave. Like there's something wrong, or I'm doing something wrong when I don't eat certain foods. So basically, he's linking his psychological part with the physical part.
Basically, what I hear when that sentence is read is that those are the ways that I take care of myself. So even though I know that this food is bad for me, when I don't eat it, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong, right? Because I didn't take care of me. And I feel like part of this is finding another way to take care of yourself, doing other things that are good for you besides eating comfort foods, right? And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that they do that. And then when they don't do it, so, like even that idea that, well, I have to eat grandma's oatmeal cookies, right? Because that's the way grandma takes care of me. She makes me special treats and whatever. And you know what? There's a part of me that understands that, because the other thing that grandma does, at least I know my grandma used to do it. My grandmother made the best pone once a year. She didn't make it all the time because that stuff's fattening. But once a year, she would make the best cassava pone. Delicious, right? And she'd make a tray for my dad, and then we'd get a tray as kids, and everybody would get a tray. She made a lot, and it's like it was once a year.
Once a year.
Right? Because it was a
real treat.
Not something that she's making to kill us. But it's just like grandma was only making you those cookies once in a while because you're her whatever, loved you grandson, whatever. It's not all the time. When we turn around and we are self-soothing with these poor quality foods, we're hurting ourselves.
So that self-soothing part, like when you're in an addictive scenario, it's our own way to take care of you. Is the way we know how to take care of ourselves. But like you said, you just need to find other healthier way to take care of ourselves. But the problem is, like with that taking care of part of ourselves, that more mental, there's often that physical pull towards the substance question, the substance or the behavior, because in the last video you also talked in our last video you talked about the behavior part also. So gambling, driving fast could be also addictive, but
again, I think
driving fast could be like, I just fail to see where, let's say you have a hit or a dopamine hit when you drive fast, and how's that taking care of yourself?
It's a way of diverting your feelings from the bad story into something else.
Okay, so you push away the
it's an avoidance technique.
The crap that's happening in your life. Okay.
Yeah, but I think the important thing that he mentioned there was that he already put down the craving part. It's that emotional thing that he was talking about. So I do feel like that's another thing that does happen to a lot of people, where they don't recognize that it would be great to find another way to take care of you. So thanks, Mandel, for the great question. It was nice talking about how to stay on track, stay focused, attain your goals. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. Love making these videos for you guys. T-shirts, Patreon in the description below. If you thought this was interesting, share it, because maybe there's other people who want to know how to stay focused. We're just doing all the things now, man. We're just doing all the things. I love making these videos for you guys. Can't wait to talk to you again next week.
Talk to you next week.